Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. As scheduled, uh, today's webinar, which is titled as Complete Strategy GS4, GS Economy for IS exam, will have basically these highlights. First, we will try to situate the economy part in the overall syllabi of the examination. Then we discuss how to prepare this segment, that is General Studies Economy. Then I move on to the readings and references section, what things should be read by your students, and I will give some input how they should be read. After that, the participants will be facing a quiz, and accordingly we will have a poll on this also. Okay. At the end of the quiz, I will give some tips on the quiz, why you did well or why you did not do well, these things basically. And at the end of the webinar, we will have question and answer session. The participants will be posing their questions and doubts, and I would like to clear them as far as it is possible for me. Thank you. So I think you got the plan of the webinar, how this webinar is going to be conducted. Okay. So let's start now. The first part of your webinar is about the syllabi and the importance of economy. Okay. Look, coming to the syllabus of GS economy in preliminary exam and main exam, if you go into the syllabi prescribed by UPSC, you find the nature of syllabus being reflective. It means ki it is not clearly prescribed or proscribed what should be read and what should not be read. Okay. By the way, aspirants believe that in mains part the syllabus for GS economy is clearly written, but it is surprising. It is nothing written basically. You will find 3 to 4 ETCs used in the syllabus. It means ki even if it is described well in mains examination, it is not complete and exhaustive. Then this is the biggest challenge which a student face. So there is a way out. What you should do basically, you are supposed to create the syllabi. First, look upon the prescribed syllabus, go into previous year questions, and then delve down into the recent socio-economic developments. It means कि by connecting these three coordinates, the prescribed syllabus, nature of questions which have been asked in previous exams, and the third is latest developments in socio-economic development area. Merge all these three, then you will have the real syllabus emerging. Okay. Coming to its importance and weightage in the examination. So if you go into questions of last one or more than one decade, you find maximum 50 to 50 plus questions have been asked in PT on economy. Since number of questions have come down to 100 only in paper 1, in past few years the range of questions has varied between 25 to 35. Even then you can consider it carries even today around one-third weightage in the scheme of PT. This is too much. This is too much. But don't take it as a rule, because such trends are broken by UPSC very mercilessly. So we even when we go into previous year question, the aim is knowing the nature of question, the type of question, the way they ask, what they actually want to know from you, such kind of things. Okay, and the number of questions which have been asked in past few years, there are no precedents कि you should be expecting same number of questions the next year or this year. Okay, but one needs to be knowing this fact over there. Coming to mains exam, in main examination you will find GS economy is part of General Studies paper 3. On an average, around 60% questions are asked on Indian socio-economic development, and the rest 40% are from security or science and technology, etc. Okay. Not only this, questions on GS economy are found in other papers also, and uh, my idea suggests around 40 to 50% of questions asked in all four papers of general studies are directly or indirectly connected to economy. And economists study them. Okay? And while interacting with the students, or try to expose a student to the expense of this paper and this segment of IS exam. Okay? And then in mains exam, you have another paper that is essay. Invariably, out of 4 to 8 essays, you will find 2 essays being asked directly on burning socio-economic issues. Okay, that's why I created a special chapter also in my book Indian Economy that is titled as Burning Socio-Economic Issues. Okay, it means कि right from essay to main GS, uh, economy gets high importance in the scheme of this examination. The last leg of the examination is interview, that is personality test. What you find there, a large number of questions are asked on economy, current economy. Why this is so basically? Was it so in past also? No. Once reform commenced in India, and more so after the arrival of new government in central, what we find if bureaucrats are supposed to understand the economic requirements, economic weaknesses, the changing economic controls of global economy, etc., this is the perception. That's why in interview, generally, few attitudinal questions are asked on Indian economy. What is basic understanding of the candidate related to Indian economy, the challenges we face, the things which government of India is trying to do, and what are the hurdles which we are faced with. So interview also gives high weightage to uh, economy. That's why people call it basically GS economy, the very gateway to GS and civil services examination. This is what you find perception among the experts. This is about situating syllabi in the whole scheme of exam, its importance, number of questions, and how it is situated in the overall scheme of exam. This was the subject matter of this part. Okay? Coming to the next part, which is more interesting for you basically, the, what kind of references and readings a student should read. Okay, that is very important. Okay, I will come to that later on in the next slide. But first, I would like to let you know what should be the right strategy. Though you are participating in a webinar on economy, this strategy which I am going to share with you, it applies more or less exactly same way on other papers of general studies and optional papers also. Okay, let's say I have marked कि APSC requires from you a three-dimensional approach. I mean, the things which Union Public Service Commission expects from you in this examination, right from preliminary to mains to interview, you need to prepare a three-dimensional approach for your preparation. Okay. In this three-dimensional approach, you will find the first coordinate of approach is adequate knowledge. What I mean to say, कि the information which you have got, it should be adequate, not excessively large, neither narrow, and this is decided by what you read and what you refer. That is why in bracket you will find written reading and referencing. That is the point where I will come in the next slide. Okay. The first part is you must have adequate amount of knowledge. The second dimension is conceptual clarity of knowledge. Whatever information you have with yourself, you should be having conceptual clarity about them. What I mean to say, if conceptually you should be clear about the information. If you are using some concept, if you are using some idea, if you are talking about some scheme, so you should be clear to what exactly this scheme is all about, what exactly this policy is all about, what exactly these ideas are all about. Okay. For example, if you are talking about inflation in past month, in last month has increased in India of what? Of vegetables and fruit. So you should know the types of inflation. Okay, where this vegetable and fruit falls down in the inflation index of India, in CPI. What weightage it carries, such kind of things basically. This is what I mean by conceptual clarity. The third and the last dimension of your strategy should be ability to apply. Ability to apply, just let me connect all three together. The knowledge you have, the knowledge you have, you are conceptually clear about them. Are you able to apply them if need be in objective exam and subjective exam? Because you are going to face two set of examinations. Objective, that is preliminary, and subjective, that is main exam. It means to whatever you know, you should be clear about the concepts of all of them. And the third, whatever you know, you should be having the capability to apply. So third dimension is connected to syllabus change. The last time when syllabus was changed, three main reasons were cited by UPSC why syllabi had been changed. That was in 2011. Out of three reasons cited by minister in parliament, the third was कि till now our examination pattern was based on rote learning. Rote learning, more or less, it is synonymous to cramming. We need to switch over from rote learning to application-based style of examination. It means more than knowing, application became important. Okay, so I just try to sum up. It means that this examination, if you want to crack in flying colors right from PT to personality test, you should follow three-dimensional approach. Okay, gather adequate information, that is knowledge, develop conceptual clarity on them, and the third and the last, develop capacity and ability to apply them in objective way and in subjective way. Getting me? This is about the strategy, how to prepare it. Clear? Uh, most of the students are very interested in knowing references and readings basically. Okay, it is important. They play very important role. But more than that, your strategy plays the role. Okay. Anyway, I will find here I have given you just 4 points in the readings and reference. The first reading I have written India 2021, Economic Survey 2021, Budget 21-22, some latest reports and write-ups of Niti Aayog. For example, its 3-year action agenda and 7-year strategic framework. The vision document is still awaited to be published. If it is published, you are supposed to refer that part also. Okay, this is first. The second is basically for this year PT Advanced Examination. The coronavirus 19 impact on economy and the special measures taken by government of India to take on the crisis. Okay, always refer official source. Okay, the third reference I have written here, that is a good book which is updated and covers Indian economy as the examination requires. You will find large number of books available in market, which is case not now, it is since long. Large number of books are available as help books on Indian economy. So you should be careful enough because you can't afford to read more than one book. So be very careful while selecting the book which you want to refer as help book. And the last is current economy. Current economy, what I mean by the latest developments in Indian economy, socio-economic development, you should be acquainted with. Refer a good newspaper and Press Information Bureau for more clarity and complete understanding. This is about readings and references. Okay. Now, from here, Uh, I would like to move on to the next part basically, that is about the quiz and poll. Up now, the before I move to quiz, I would like to give you some idea on the challenge which normally a student face. Okay, for example, I have come back on the slide readings and references. Okay, a student generally ask me, is economic survey of how many years we should refer? The first question. And so the issue is that most of the students, even if they buy economic survey or union budget, there is no need to buy them. They are freely available on the website of Ministry of Finance. So even then you can buy, because economic survey from this year is being published by Publication Division, the branch of Government of India, which has been publishing India Yearbook. Okay, so what happens? Okay, economic survey is such a document. Even if a student buy them, they generally don't refer. There are reasons why. The first reason is that till you are not uh, clear about the basics of economics, I mean fundamentals of economics, economic survey won't be your ball game. You won't be able to understand what exactly this document is trying to say. Second thing, economic survey are basically not like an interesting book. This is kind of reference manual. If need be, we refer it. Okay, we refer it. And uh, how many years of economic survey? I will rather suggest कि uh, at least 3 to 4 years economic survey you should have sense. Okay. अब suppose कि someone was not reading economic survey altogether and he is listening me, he will think कि how he will read all economic survey. So no, this economic survey you will read this year. New economic survey which will come next year, we will cover them next year naturally. This is how things happen. Second thing is so that you are able to establish the connectivity between government's policy. This is necessary. You go into economic survey of the government. See, the government we have in center, this is its second term. The government comes in power in 2014-15. I hope you got my indication. So economic surveys which have been published by Ministry of Finance since 2014-15 till date, they are interconnected, and upcoming surveys refer the previous volumes of economic survey. Similarly, as economic surveys are connected, if I mean the economic surveys of past few years, if you find since 2014-15 onwards, are very much interconnected. So same and similar interconnections you find in between Government of India's budget also. What I mean to say, is the place where last budget leaves, the new budget begins from there. Okay? And then the interconnection between economic surveys and the budgets of the year. These are the interconnections. In absence of properly understanding these interconnections, students normally fail to crack the question in PT exam or mains exam. In PT, they miss the right choice, and in mains exam, they are not able to write a suitable and a desirable kind of answer which can impress and which can leave impression, a good impression on the exam. So they normally fetch low marks. This is about readings and references. Okay, this is first part about readings and references. Coming to basically next part, that is about the readings and references. See, when I told you you should have conceptual clarity and etc., you will find in this year's survey, related to inflation, the survey has raised few questions. Whether India's monetary policy that is set and announced by Reserve Bank of India, the CPIC should be its anchor or core inflation should be its anchor. Okay. Of this debate is duly discussed by economic survey over there. Now the issue is that till you are not able, till the reader is not clear about the types of inflation, how many types of inflation there are, why this debate has come up, is it somehow connected to inflation targeting? Is it somehow connected to monetary policy committee that was set up by Government of India in 2015? Until then, it is no use reading economic survey because economic surveys raise burning issues, policy challenges in volume 1, and volume 2 is a kind of performance report of economy in the particular year. Okay, so volume 1 is about policy challenges, experiences of past, and volume 2 is about the performance. On the basis of performance economy in last few years, economic survey and the challenges faced by Government of India in implementing policy, realization of property uh, objectives, Government of Economic Survey tries to articulate finer points and accordingly it advises Government of India subtle changes to radical changes in economic policy. Okay, this year you found over there the economic survey in a sense gave free hand to Government of India. Okay, we are crossing through a very hard time, hit hard by the unprecedented crisis of COVID-19. So it gave a kind of intellectual support to Government of India. The Government of India should not worry about debt because our debts are still under control and at very logical level. And for the next few years, they are going to be so. So if need be, government should be expanding its expenditure base. Basically, it means you don't worry about rise in fiscal deficit. If need be, forget FRBM Act also. You know कि under FRBM Act 2013, Government of India had been setting a target of fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, it all. So these are why I shared all these things with you because these things are subject matters of latest economic survey. But you are not clear about what exactly fiscal deficit is, what exactly the FRBM Act is, how we will be able to understand this? If you are not clear about the importance and the things about monetary policy, will you be able to link monetary policy with inflation targeting and inflation anchor? Certainly not. It is simply not possible. Okay. So what I suggest is, if first you develop fundamental understanding of Indian economy, before that you have to develop a fundamental understanding of economics as a subject, not as an specialist, as an expert. No need to read theories, no need to read basically concept. You should have working knowledge of concept. What I mean by working knowledge, you should not be knowing things too much. You should be understanding things more. Okay, I hope you are clear about the difference between knowledge and understanding. Okay, economists know too much economics, but they might not be as good when time comes to apply economics. Getting me? So bureaucrats are not supposed to know economics much, but they are necessarily expected to understand economics. Okay? It means the fundamental understanding of economics. I don't mean knowledge of economics. You are supposed to develop a basic understanding. Okay, without knowing much. Are you able to apply economics in everyday activities of your life? The everyday challenges which Government of India faces, the everyday challenges which bureaucrats while dealing with administration they are faced with, these are the things which you are supposed to know. Okay, so I gave you a little bit clarification on the importance of readings and references and the major confusion aspirants face while reading either economic survey or budget. Okay, so economic survey and budget they are the most important official document You can call them the very basis of your examination. If you are not able to connect between economic survey, budget, and the question which have been asked, this is your weakness. You need to search the correlations, how they are connected. And same story is about India 2020. India is only book published by Government of India on almost everything. So India is a manual for whole examination. Okay, and this book is referred by question setters very seriously. Okay, this way or that way, questions are rooted to India, and India is based on government policy, India's developmental experiences since independence. Okay, had all things been jotted down in India, India would have become by now minimum of 70 volumes. Okay, it means that India 2021 must be different from India 2020. That is why a new manual has been published. Certain things which India 2010 had, they are not available in India 2021. Okay, so they are also interconnected. So these are the major references which you are supposed to read. Okay, now I would like to uh, invite the participants for the poll. Okay, before commencing the poll and offering you the question serially, I give you some idea how the poll will be organized and how the quiz will be organized. This quiz has got basically 10 multiple choice questions that is known more as MCQ. Okay, uh, questions will be shown to you as it is first in their original form. In the next slide, you will find options to put your tick marks. Okay, you are advised to tick more than one choice. It is allowed. Okay, clear? And in the next slide, you will get your score, what your score has been in the quiz. Okay, this is how this quiz will be organized. I hope you are clear. I repeat it again. This quiz has got 10 multiple choice questions on Indian economy and social development. Questions are all latest and contemporary. Few are factual, few are theoretical, few are factual plus theoretical, that I call hybrid kind of question. Okay, you will first be shown question number one, where you have to read the question and understand that. The second slide will show the question together with options and choices, where you are supposed to put your tick marks. Whatever you find a statement or you can say line that is correct, you can tick there. Okay, and the third slide will show the percentage of correct and incorrect answers given by the participants. Okay, for this whole process, you won't be allowed to have more than 1 minute each question. So 10 questions will be finishing in 10 minutes. Clear? This is how your quiz will run. Coming to after quiz. After quiz, I will give you few tips why your performance was good, why your performance was not so good, and what you should do for improving your performance. Okay, so let's start with the quiz. Okay, so this is your first question. Basically, it is about invisible hand. This was seriously discussed by the last economic survey in volume 1 and in volume 2 also. You will find there are three statements given. You have to pick the correct statement. Okay, the codes are there A, B, C, D. So read the question clearly. You have to pick the correct statement related to invisible hand. Okay, now you have the boxes to click and tick your choice. Okay, in the next slide. Okay, about question 1. Here you see the same question. All three statements are given here, and you will find statements are preceded by three box. You can tick them. You can tick the box. Good. So this is your 33, 33, 33. Its answer was D. Okay. Its answer was D. It means that neither of the choices were correct. Okay. This idea finds its origin from the famous book by Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. The very idea which is considered behind the rise of capitalism, and ultimately uh, mm, the story is that all three statements I find correct. Okay. This is also called by experts as animal spirit, and it was the main idea propounded by Adam Smith. But it can't work in the absence of market. That is why market economy came out of that. This is the poll result of question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. See, this is question number 2. This is about employee stock option plans. And you are being asked to tick the correct statement related to employee stock option. It involves the employees of a limited stock company. Limited stock company means limited company in the affairs of company as the stakeholders and enhances the latter's efficiency and performance. This is first statement. Second is it exposes the company to the risk of insider trading and share scams. Think and take. The same question is being shown to you, and two statements which you saw in the last slide, they are here, but you get here boxes also, two boxes where you can put your choice. Good. Hmm. The risk of insider trading is not involved with ESOP. Okay, so here second statement was incorrect. Only statement 1 was correct. Okay, good luck. So we can move on to the next poll, next quiz. Good. 80% we are able to take correct. The third question is basically a statement. Okay, this statement was in news the year 2020-21. Okay, and this was used by Economic Survey. Process of industrial mutation that incessantly revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one, incessantly creating a new one. This is a statement. Which of the following is correct about a statement given above? This is a quote by Albert Einstein, Technological Research and Development. The passage quoted from World Economic Forum document on Fourth Industrial Revolution, description of innovation by Joseph Schumpeter, quote from the speech of Nobel laureate for economics Abhijit Banerjee. All four were in news last year. Okay, Einstein was in news due to fourth industrial revolution, and annual conference of World Economic Forum. So, in retrospect, the where from this statement has been borrowed. You get here now all four answers given here. You have to pick the one which is correct. Pick the one which is correct. Okay. Hmm. That is me. I think students are facing some challenge in picking the right answer. Okay. Let's see how many are able to solve the question. This is the poll result. You can see it is basically Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter who has worked with World Bank also, and it is believed today, for our time, he is considered one of the most relevant economists of all time. Okay, he tried to connect the growth and you can say innovation very intricately, showing data how high growth countries had been led to high growth with the help of innovation and technology. And he used a different word for innovation, that is creative destruction. This year you will find in Economic Survey 2020-21, Volume 1, one dedicated chapter given on innovation, where the Economic Survey has suggested that in India, innovation has been primarily funded by Government of India. Okay, the support from private sector has not come, and that is necessary to come. Okay, so most of you went for B. That was not the answer. Answer is C. Okay, Joseph Schumpeter. Clear? So we can move on to the next question. Okay, next quiz. Next quiz is connected to financial world. Okay, it was news. It was in news during COVID-19 pandemic when government was trying to provide some support to industries, MSME, and other industries in the times of financial crunch and financial crisis. The Reserve Bank of India used this term credit rationing. Okay, so you are supposed to pick the statements which are correct about credit rationing. Okay, when banks offer loans only to companies with strong financials and performance. First statement. Second statement. Companies with weak financials and performance are given loans at comparatively lower interest rates under it. And the third, such actions are prevalent when there is a liquidity crunch in the financial system. Select the correct one. Hope participants are enjoying the question. Credit rationing. Statement B was incorrect. Statement 1 and 3, they were correct. Okay, see this. It means the financial help is being provided to the companies which are running through the crisis of credit crunch. Credit crunch means a scarcity of fund or financial crunch. But it is not kind of basically free lunch. Only those companies will get financial support from the government or bank which are having a stronger financial background, which are having a stronger financial. It means their financial report and their balance sheet is good. This is very different from past. In past, all big companies used to get financial support from government of India. But this time government changed the approach. You know, financial help will be given to companies, but not all. Only those ones will get financial help which are having a strong financial. See, this is subtle change, okay? And this such changes are being called by this government as transformative reform. Mark this. This is a new thing, less reported in media. Yes, some companies will feel annoyed because they did not get the same support. But those companies which maintained a strong financial, they must be very happy, more than happy. Yes, for maintaining a strong financials, they have been rewarded. Okay, so this is about question number 4. Okay, this is credit rationing. This is a concept used in banking industry, used by government policymakers also when time comes to help out industry involved in diverse kind of activities and businesses. Okay, so we can move on to the next question. That is our question number 5. The question number 5 is in front of you on your display board. So this question is again connected to banking industry. It is about interest coverage ratio. Okay, interest coverage ratio. Bankers use this, and in relation to companies which come as customers to borrow loans from them. It means the financial institutions, banks, they use this ratio to decide. It means when we apply for loan or when companies apply for loan to any banking institution, banks get involved in credit-worthy analysis of the prospective borrower, whether it is fit to give them loan or not. Okay. At times, even interest rates vary accordingly. Okay. So lending institutions, the institutions and the bodies and the entities which provide loans to companies, this is connected to them. The companies which have applied for loan from an institution, their interest coverage ratio will be taken into account by the lending institution or the bank before provisioning loan to them. The 3 statements are there. You need to pick the right ones. Okay? Lending institution evaluate the risk in lending to a new company. First statement, it is used by lending firms to evaluate the emerging risk of a borrowing firm. And the third is the higher the interest coverage ratio of a company, the safer the loan is considered by the lending institution. Okay, now we have to make the choice. The right answer of this question is basically D. It means that all three statements are correct. Actually, interest cover ratio is used by lenders to determine a borrower's company's capability to service its loans. When you borrow a loan, you need to pay back it. Okay, so the installment that is known as EMI, that is fixed by a bank, and you need to pay back the loan principal plus interest. Okay, so when a company applies for loan, banks go into its interest cover ratio. It is calculated by dividing a company's earning before interest and taxes. Earning before interest and taxes of the company is taken, that is known shortly as EBIT, and that is divided by interest payment due within the same period. It means कि in a particular period, what will be company's total earning without paying interest and taxes? That is divided by the interest payment liability. Okay, and higher the ratio, safer it is for the bank to forward the loan. This is the inherent meaning of interest coverage ratio. Okay, you can refer glossary of my book for such kind of concepts and to better your understanding. So all three statements were correct in this question. So answer will be D. Okay. Moving on to question number 6. Question number 6 is connected to gold tranche. Okay. You are being asked very straightforward question. There are 4 choices. Which one refers to the gold tranche? This is the physical reserve of gold maintained by the central banks of the world, as in case of the RBI. A system of credit made available by International Monetary Fund to its members. A special loan forwarded by WTO its members. A system of credit granted by the World Bank to its members. You have to make your choice. Which one is correct? Okay. You are being given 4 choices. One is connected to central bank, another is IMF, yet another WTO, and the last is related to World Bank. Okay. Yes. Just the name confused you. Actually, the right answer is B. Even those who know about IMF, its functioning, the reserves it provides, the special drawing right, they might feel confused. Why? Because the term which you are seeing being used here, that is gold tranche. Gold tranche is actually known as reserve tranche. Okay, that is the more popular terminology used in case of International Monetary Fund. That is reserve tranche. What the question setter has done, in place of asking a question on reserve tranche, they have put a question on gold tranche. Okay, this is connected to a special drawing rights. Every member nation is allotted a fixed quota of special drawing rights by IMF. In India's case, that is $13.41 billion. Okay, US dollar in today's rate. Okay, 25% of total SDR allotted to a member nation, the country has to maintain with IMF in their own currency. That is 25% of total SDR quota allotted to the nation has to be maintained by the country and the member nation with IMF in their own currency. The beauty is that particular amount of money which you deposited with IMF in your own currency, that is basically given in security papers by the government concerned. You can borrow against that in any form of currency, global currency. You can even borrow pure gold. It means a reserve tranche, that is the official name, is equivalent to gold tranche. Participants got confused with the gold reserve which central banks maintain. Yes, every central bank of world maintains some reserve in gold. Which gold can be, because gold can be used replacing any foreign currency if need be. Okay, so they keep buying gold from international market or national market, and they keep selling also. So you got confused with the term gold. So gold tranche and gold reserve are two different things. The gold which central banks of world maintain with themselves, that is known as gold reserve of a country. But gold tranche is different thing. Gold tranche is the 25% of SDR quota of a country that is maintained by the country with International Monetary Fund. Thank you. I hope you got the question. A question was asked on this gold tranche in 2020 PT. Most probably, I remember. So I thought to set a question on this key, what you are able to do. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. That is question number 7. Question number 7 is also from financial world. This question is about the concept acid test ratio. Acid test ratio. This is a metric. Because it is a ratio, it is a metric. The metric is used to measure the ability of a firm to meet its short-term liability. This is part of the overall liquidity position of a firm. You have to pick the right answer. Pick your choice, then I will let you understand what exactly this is. So, what results are here? So its answer was both of the choices are correct basically. Acid test ratio, you find here the metric is how the metric is basically derived. We first take the short term liquid asset, all liquid assets of a company divided by short term liability. How much money in short term a company need to pay up its liability. Short-term liability. Short-term liability here means basically loan. Okay, loans and the you can say salary payment it is. Short-term liabilities are basically primarily taken here as a loan. All loans which a company has borrowed, which needs to be paid up within 1 year. It means a maximum 364 days. They are basically short-term borrowings of a company. So to pay them up, how much money they need? Is it sufficient? Is it sufficiently supported by company's liquid assets? What are liquid assets of a company? The best liquid asset of company is basically its profit, receivings, and the cash in coffers. Okay, so total cash plus their short-term receivings, which might come from the market by selling their goods and services, they are divided by their short-term liability. In short term, within 1 year, how much liabilities a company has to pay off. Will it be finally and in a better way counterbalanced by its liquid assets? Okay, some scholars basically uh, try to include the inventory also in liquid assets, but inventory is a very complex term. Inventory might not be converted into cash on a short notice. That is why generally experts don't include the inventory of a company in their liquid assets. The liquid assets are total cash in hand and the current receivings which might be coming from the market out there. Okay, so it's a correct answer was C. Both of the statements are correct about the concept acid test ratio. Okay, moving on to next question. That is question number 8. Question number 8 is connected to wealth creation, a term, not a new term, a very old term in economics, but it was widely used by last year's economic survey. Okay, and the economic survey of this year also has used wealth creation term at so many places in volume 1 and volume 2. So the question is asking you, which of the following action or actions contribute to wealth creation in an economy? Listing a firm on the stock exchange, a company being listed on the stock exchange, conversion of a limited stock company into private limited firm, and third and last estimate, disinvestment of a central public sector enterprise. You have to pick your choice. All of the statements were correct. Okay? Here, wealth creation simply means creating more income and creating more growth, more income creation. So when a company is listed on a stock exchange, more number of people buy its share and more people make profit as shareholder, stockholder of the particular company. The second statement is basically wrong statement. Conversion of limited stock company into private limited company. Okay? What you find in case of a statement two, a company which was already listed on a stock exchange, it has converted into private limited. It means कि ownership has shrunk. The shrinkage of ownership is not about wealth creation. This is basically opposite of wealth creation. That is why statement 2 won't be the correct choice. And the third is disinvestment of public sector into private. When companies are divested within a year or anywhere else, the shares which were owned till now by government of the country or the governments of the country, they are sold off to private parties or private individual subscription. So now the canvas of ownership expands. So now more number of people will be able to generate income and it will promote growth. Why? Because listed companies are considered, divested companies, once they are listed on a stock exchange platform, they are considered basically wealth builders because their managerial aspect, their management, their financial, everything needs to be transparent for SEBI, Security and Exchange Board of India. So the right choices were statement 1 and statement 3. Clear? That is why the answer was C. This is about wealth creation. I hope you got the clue. At present, government is pushing seriously in favor of disinvestment. Some of the central public sector enterprises are supposed to be privatized also. It means the government might sell off more than 50% of their holding to private sector. Okay, it might be a company, 10%, 20% might be sold out to general public. We can expect selling some shares to foreigners also basically because foreign financial institutions they are also allowed to have part in India's stock exchange today and stock market today. So this is how things basically are interconnected. Okay, a company which is listed on a stock exchange, they are free to convert to private limited firm. That is a narrower company. That has a smaller and a smaller ownership base. Okay, these all things are allowed in practice by any government in the world. Okay, so government of India also allowed. Okay, so I hope you are clear about the wealth creation. This concept was widely used last year by survey. No question was asked in 2020. You can expect question any year, either in 2021 or 2022. And nature of questions should be like this: connecting wealth creation with a stock exchange, with conversion of company and a stocking, and with disinvestment policy of government of India. Okay. So now moving on to the next question, that is question number 9. See the question, read it. It is about corporate borrowings. You have to pick the correct statement related to corporate borrowings. Most of corporate borrowings are secured. Pledging of shares as secondary security for loans is very weak in design. The question and the lines are borrowed from latest economic survey. Moving on to the choices, where you have to pick the correct statement. Which of the statements are correct? Both might be correct, both might be incorrect. Hmm. The right answer to the question is both of the statements are correct. Most of corporate borrowings are secured. You need to know what are secured borrowings, what are secure loans, and what are unsecured loans. Pledging of shares as secondary security for loans is very weak in design. First, let's know. When companies borrow, they are given secured loans or unsecured loans by banks. Secure and unsecured loan, the terms come from security of loan against loan. When you borrow a loan, you are supposed to provide security. And there are two kinds of security in financial world: the primary security and secondary security. Primary security is signature of the owner of the borrowing company, and the secondary security is any asset. That asset might be in the form of land, it might be in the form of a building, it might be in the form of, you can say, bank account, fixed deposit, it might be in the form of real gold. Okay. So what happens is most of the loans which limited companies borrow, that is what we mean here by corporate borrowing. Corporate means limited companies, which are more popular as company. Okay. But when you say company, you mean limited company, which is listed on a stock exchange, public limited. Okay. So corporate borrowing, most of those loans are secured. Okay. What companies do is some shares they themselves own of their company, 30%, 20%, 50%, whatever the shares they are themselves owning. When they need some money, they use those shares of their own company as security, secondary security, as an asset to borrow loan. Okay. What economic survey was trying to say is when we allow a company to mortgage its own share to take a loan, secure loan, its design is very weak. Because suppose borrower defaults, what claim the bank will be available with? Ownership on the pledged shares. So when companies hand over certain amount of shares of their own company to borrow a loan, this process is known as pledging of shares. Okay, this was very much in news, pledging of shares in case of S Bank recently. When S Bank faced crisis, the pledging of share was in news. Okay, so pledging of share is good, you can allow, but its design is not strong enough. You can't be secure as a lender. Banks are always exposed to high risk because if borrower defaults, they lose only shares of their own company. Anyway, the company is gone or the company is not fetching profit. They are not able to pay back the loans they have borrowed. So what the bank will be doing with those shares? If they have shares of the company placed as security, secondary security, getting me? It means कि this corporate borrowing question is connected to types of loans, secured loans, unsecured loans. What types of securities are there? Primary securities, secondary security, and then coming back to pledging of shares. When a company is pledging shares of its own company, it means he is mortgaging some number of shares of his own company to borrow loans from a bank, and banks decide. Suppose a share is having value of rupees 10, how much loan can be forwarded against a share of 10 rupees? Banks decide 70%, 80%, 90%. Usually, it varies between 40 to 60%. It means if a company is pledging share which has got value of 100 rupees, he will be given loan of 60 rupees. This is a ratio of 60 to 40. Okay. Bank is happy if they have security in their hand. If something goes wrong with the loan, it won't convert into NPA, but there is no guarantee because when borrower defaults on the front of payment of loan, the value of share might be nothing. This point was raised by Economic Survey last year, An economic survey of this year also, the forbearance in hard times is good, but be careful. The forbearance is not basically a free gift. There should be adequate amount of responsibility and accountability when companies are given some financial support in times of distress, which India government did during COVID times. Okay, so the question number 9 has got basically both choices correct. Both the statements are correct. So answer will be C. Moving on to the last question, that is question number 10. Question number 10 is not related to any particular country. You are being asked to select the incorrect one. Banks maintaining a minimum reserve cash ratio in order to mobilize adequate liquidity to meet the customer's cash demands in their day-to-day business is known as fractional banking. The cash reserve ratio provision in India for the banks is part of the fractional banking. This question is basically on fractional banking. What exactly fractional banking is? Two statements are there. You have to pick the right one. Banks maintaining a minimum reserve cash ratio in order to mobilize adequate liquidity to meet the customer's cash demands in their day-to-day business is known as fractional banking. Cash reserve ratio provision. Both of the statements are correct. The deposits which we make in banks, in our bank accounts, they are used by banks in their lending business on day-to-day basis. Okay, but we may go to bank to withdraw our money from our bank accounts. So where from that money comes? The banks every day calculate the requirement of cash for tomorrow on the basis of the data they have of previous year. Okay, they need to manage that much cash in the branch so that when customers come to withdraw, when depositors and their client comes to withdraw money from their bank account, some fixed deposit might be maturing today, some recurring deposit might be maturing. The people might withdraw money from their small bank saving account, okay, and current account, the business farm account. So everyday transaction of banks runs in crores of rupees and thousands of crores, okay, but they are not available with any cash. So what they do, one day before, after 3 p.m. evening, after lunchtime, 3 p.m., they calculate the cash requirement of tomorrow. That much cash early morning before bank branch opens has to be maintained in the bank. Okay? But where from that money is borrowed? The banks borrow that money, keeping security out of their SLR, that is statutory liquidity ratio. You know, in India, there are two kinds of ratios maintained by Indian banks. One is cash reserve ratio (CRR), that is in cash form, and another is SLR. So SLR is the in center of this question. The fractional banking is a kind of banking in which whatever cash banks mobilize out of new deposits, they hold today 3 to 4% as CRR, and rest of money they are free to use. But a part of that money that is known as SLR that runs between 18 to 19% in the last few years. That much money they convert into non-cash. Non-cash means either gold or security or any other asset which they find suitable for themselves in which they can put that much amount. It means suppose the deposit is 100 rupees and CRR is 4. So 4 rupees they have to hold in their hand as cash. That is known as CRR. And suppose SLR for bank is 18%. So 18 rupees of 100 rupees they have to convert in non-cash. The law of the land today is that all 18 rupees the bank has to invest in government securities. Government securities are papers of loans which are issued by Government of India. When Government of India need to borrow in long term for minimum 1 year or more than 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, the Government of India issues a paper that is promissory note kind of thing that is known as government security, GSEC. Shortly that is known as GSEC. Against GSEC, they invest money in the GSEC, 18% that is SLR. When they need money and they cash on daily basis to manage their banking business, they mortgage this paper, GSEC, to another bank. Okay. So Punjab National Bank borrowing, mortgaging part of SLR to a State Bank of India. The State Bank of India borrowing from Bank of India. This is the way how fractional banking is managed. Okay. And the basic idea behind fractional banking is that the depositors should be always allowed enough liquidity. Whenever a depositor comes to withdraw money from his and her account, he should be allowed with the facility. Okay? But where from the money will come? The banks mortgage security papers, putting out from their SLR, give it to another bank, and they borrow cash from there for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. This is known as a repo operation. This is call money market, the short-term financial market of India, call money market and call rates. And the rates are decided by RBI, that is known as repo rate. Okay. This is all about fractional banking. This fractional banking has been asked in PT examination this year, that was several times. Okay. So be careful about such concepts. Okay. The 10 questions which I asked you in this school, they were all and all topical in nature. They were all and all contemporary. This is the way how questions are asked. Okay? There is no fixed fast and rule. You can say hard and fast rule. These many questions from agriculture, these many questions from banking, these many questions from industry. No, but largely what you find, a majority of questions are asked on financial sector. I mean banking industry, inflation, and then topical schemes and the schemes in news which have been launched by government of India. This is about your Paul, and I give you the last advice to the participant today. Actually, uh, to the other than following the three-dimensional approach, the strategy to either PT or mains or interview examination, I suggest you to do enough practice. Face test of PT as many as you can, learn how to manage time, learn how to avoid taking a wrong answer because in real examination you will be punished for wrong choice. Okay, you know the penalty marks is there. So practice makes a man perfect. Practice makes a woman perfect. Okay. So what I mean to say, if it is PT, you need to do enough practice other than collecting information, having conceptual clarity, you must be having enough practice also. And the third is that you should be very careful about the writing answers in the mains exam. Okay. Now, this is about my advice on the, you can say, your preparation step. Coming to queries, basically, the question answer session. What question basically you have posed over there. Very good. So one question is there about the importance of NCRT. Basically, NCRTs are why we read NCRT. Okay, there is nothing wrong in reading NCRT. Normally, a student study and refer NCRTs of 11th and 12th standard. So I let you know NCRTs we read to just familiarize ourselves uh, with the basics of economics. So what actually children study at school level in the name of economics. Actually, this much I must know. This is why we read NCRT. Reading NCRT does never mean NCRTs are the most authentic source of information or questions are set from NCRT. Okay, that is not the case. So you can read NCRT, you may not read NCRT, but the good thing about NCRT is that it familiarizes you with the economics at a very basic level. And the bad thing about it is that it doesn't explain because NCRT books are written for teachers who is going to teach the class. It is not written for the student. So the things which are written in NCRT, they are to be clarified by the teacher while taking classes. But you can read that. Okay. If you are clear about economics and if you are clear about the syllabi, you will be very well able to understand and use NCRT. Otherwise, reading NCRT won't be sufficient enough. Okay. Um, Arjun Ramanujan is asking regarding the knowledge part, which books should we refer? Naturally, I have also written a book, so I just advise you that there are so many books available in market. You can read anyone that suits you. Okay, how can I say you should necessarily read my book only? But you need to pick which one will be suitable for me. The book which you understand well, the book which, but it should be able to cover the syllabus also. It should be latest in edition also. It should be abreast with latest survey, budget, and government of India document. Okay? One question Ms. Ravina is asking to suggest something on national income and unemployment in India. What is wrong with national income? You have to read national income as per CSO and NSO. So whatever Central Statistical Office and organization is saying about national income, that is national income. And the second, unemployment. Government of India 2 years back in 2017-18 commenced a new way to collect data regarding employment and unemployment status of the country. Okay? That is national. That document is known as National uh, Periodic Survey for Labor Participation. Okay? How many people were employed, in which kind of employment, in what kind of unemployment. These all things are covered in my book. Okay. Within latest edition also, they all have been covered based on the latest PLFS, okay, Periodic Labor Force Survey, okay. Periodic Labor Force Survey that was started by Government of India 2 years back that gives you clear idea about the status of employment and unemployment in India. Okay, and similarly, CSO keep releasing the latest data on national income of India. The next question I take, that is asked by Vijay Kumar. No, if you ask me, is there any method to cover the old economic survey? The best method is just read it. Just read it. Okay. Potential GDP. Potential GDP is basically the possibility, the possible GDP which you can achieve. This is potential GDP on which Government of India is projecting कि by 2025 size of India GDP should be 5 trillion US dollar. This is on the basis of potential GDP. I hope you got the point. On the basis of economic growth and historical track record, governments keep projecting possible GDPs for upcoming years. Okay. Yes, one question Pratik is asking, will they get coupon for purchase of your book with Bhajan? Yes, you will get the coupon which can be used on Amazon. If you purchase directly from Amazon, you know there are several vendors selling books on Amazon, but one vendor is having name as CloudTel. CloudTel is Amazon itself. Okay, so you preferably buy things from Amazon sold by CloudTel. It is better. You will be given coupon. You can get discount on my book and on Amazon. Okay. Macro Hill will contact you. Don't worry. Okay. Saurabh is asking me what's the most important topic we should focus on. Look, for PT, nothing is less important. I just tell you one line. Okay. You simply focus first the latest things which were in news and then every other thing. Okay. Only by doing this, you can think to cover maximum number of questions. But if your understanding of economics, proper understanding of economics, you have brushed up with latest informations on economics, it is very easy to crack 100% question in PT exam. Okay. What consequences? Rabina is asking another question. He said, please throw some light on consequences of bank privatization, which is an ongoing topic. Look, banking like any public sector company. Okay. So even they can be privatized. A number of public sector companies have been already privatized, right from BSNL to Balco to several other companies. Similarly, a bank is also a company, public sector company, and they can be privatized. I hope what you actually need to listen. If banks, the government banks are privatized, who will take care of poor people? Who will give them loan? Okay, but you can't damage the interest of banking industry by holding some government banks which are doing business in non-business fashion. Clear? You know the government of India has large number of ministries. Poor people can be taken care of by those ministries. Don't worry, okay? So the kind of apprehensions you had if government banks are privatized, simply a sky will fall. Nothing short of that will happen. Simply because government is always there. Can government of India do away from its welfare roles? Do you think? If you see the data of last 2 decades when privatization commenced in India, the government's welfare expenditure has increased many times. Okay, by holding banks in government ownership is not the answer. Okay, Mr. Om Sriya Sahu is asking about Om Sriya Sahu is asking about some tips on answer writing. Look, answer writing you may in mains exam. Answer writing is basically a thing which you develop out of writing only answers. Okay, there is no other way out. You first start writing. If somebody is there who can evaluate your answer and give you right tips, you develop very well and very fast. Okay. If no one is there, who can evaluate your answers, then I let you know one simple trick over there. Okay, just keep on writing. Just keep on writing. Your writing will improve. Okay. The answers which you have been writing at graduation or post-graduation level in university examination, you need to unlearn them. Okay. You need to write very pinpointed and very short answers in IS exam. Okay. The questions which will be asked in men's exam, you might be having notes running in thousands of words, but the question might be asked in 150 words or 200 words or maybe 75 words, because UPSC has never cleared that they will be asking questions of 150 and 250 words only. The pattern can be changed any year. So you should be ready to write answers in shortest possible words also. Okay. So answer writing improves by writing answer. There is no way out. There is no another. There is no another way how to develop your answer writing. Okay, Mr. Indra Guram, you have asked a question: why government is selling PSCs to private one, and what are the benefits to the government of India? You are asking such a question which needs basically discussion in hours. Okay. You need to read Logic Behind Economic Reforms of India. Read chapter 6 of my book. Why disinvestment and privatization of government companies are being done? Read Disinvestment and the Logic Behind Disinvestment, chapter 9 of my book. Okay. What benefits government will have, you will get in three chapters: chapter 6, chapter 9, and chapter 18. That is public finance. Okay. I can't make you understand all this question in just 2 or 3 lines. This much I can say you. You need enough money for investment. The investment economy needs that cannot be mobilized by government of India. Then who will mobilize the investment? Private sector of India and foreign countries? How they will enjoy it? So that they invest in the economy, you need to provide them a market for that. Okay. अब suppose कि a government company is selling petrol and diesel, fetching loss, and they are not able to sell as much diesel petrol as much India needs. So you need to invite private companies in this business. But will they come? If they come, they will try to earn profit out of selling diesel and petrol. They will sell diesel in 100 rupees per liter, and government might be selling 30 rupees per liter. The government either need to quit the business or simply privatize the Oil India Limited. This is simple logic. Okay. It means reform India commences by the simple logic. Investment possibilities in India are high, but investable capital are not available as much. Okay. So I gave you a hint to understand why government of India is selling public sector companies. Okay. Public sector companies all and all will be privatized. This is the theory which Manmohan Singh as finance minister articulated in 1991. Okay. So disinvestment is there in India since 1991 itself. It doesn't mean that all PSUs should be sold out, or rather say this way, the government is selling PSUs. It doesn't mean the government will sell all PSUs. If they think some PSUs should be retained under government ownership, that might be retained. As you have seen, that there are 4 areas which have been demarcated by government of India as core sector. In this core sector, government companies will be there, but rest of all will be privatized. And this core sector includes defense, industry, financial world. The financial world means some banks also. Getting me? So read the latest edition of my book. You will get every idea. What are those core sectors where government companies will not be privatized? Okay. The title of my book is Indian Economy, published by McGraw-Hill. The Search for Indian Economy. on Amazon or Flipkart or any other place, you will get the first book coming in front of you, that is Indian economy. By the way, Dilsha remained as the bestseller for several years. Okay, so you will come to know the about book also. Okay, so I think we are done with the questions.